This week on OgimaIntBay.com, I'll be heading off to Dryden, Ontario to check out Eagle Lake Pow-wow and also Beaver Lake Gospel Sing. I'm Richard Ogima. Now, the word colonization is a word quite familiar within the Aboriginal community. While driving through Dryden on August the 2nd to the 4th and seeing a street sign named Colonization downtown, I thought it would only be appropriate to give it an Aboriginal makeover or niche makeover. That's right. On the weekend, from a population of 7,000 to 700 people in Dryden, it must have rose to over 10,000 people. One might say that Aboriginal people were colonizing Dryden. Thousands of Aboriginal people were seen at Walmart, to Tim Hortons and Pizza Hut and even the pub. And of course, we were only there to play a simple game of pool. My name is Richard Ogima, reporting on some of the highlights from Eagle Lake Pow-wow and Beaver Lake. Soul-stomping hits by Johnny Cash were pumping out of the CD player as we're speeding down the dusty roads and heading to this year's Eagle Lake Pow-wow. Upon arrival, we had to go through some sort of inspection, making sure that we didn't have any contraband. Even though we had nothing and we were innocent, we felt kind of nervous, and thankfully we passed. Now, if you've never been to the Eagle Lake Reserve, there are very few words that can accurately describe its magnificence. The actual powwow itself is in a closely knit circle next to this large body of open water called Eagle Lake. There's a large beach that runs from one end of the lake to the other end. Most of the children spend their time swimming and having fun, while others travel from tent to tent, visiting cousins and family and getting to know new people and to explore possible romance. Some have even suggested, Richard, if you see a shaking tent in the distance, make sure you close your ears and walk in the opposite direction because there's some magic going on there this night. Now, since 1981, Aboriginal members as well as the Mennonite community put away their differences and find common similarities and partner on a weekend of gospel singing, fun, and fellowship at the Beaver Lake camp. Now, if you've never been to a gospel jamboree of the Native experience before, you definitely want to check it out next time you're driving through Dryden on the August long weekend. There's a unique cultural experience that is visible as you float around from tent to tent and get a feel of what people are talking about and some of the conversations and the singing style. And it's definitely an interesting experience. A lot of First Nations people hop from the powwow and back over to the Gospel Jamboree because they have family members in both activities. Some of the highlights this year were presented by Canadian Bible Society. They came up to recognize and devote the Ojibwe Bible translated from the Old Testament into Ojibwe. First Nations member Jim Kizik had spent most of his life devoted his hour-by-hour day-to-day life into translating the words of the Old Testament, the stories of the Old Testament, into the Ojibwe language. Many members of the Ojibwe people were there to pay special appreciation to Jim and his work, and to purchase one of the very first copies of the Old Testament in Ojibwe. Another highlight that was talked about throughout the community was the fireworks display presented and sponsored by Gois Kakagamek. It was definitely a great way to end the evening. Now, I want to thank you for listening to another exciting newscast presented by Richard Ogima. If you've missed any of the highlights or any of the things that I spoke about, or want more photos, please log into my site, ogimaintbay.com. And I'm hoping to capture more highlights throughout Thunder Bay from a native perspective and the surrounding area. And until next time, all my relations, and have a great summer.